This is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
That received quite the reaction in the arena last night, and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is with us live this morning. Don't know if you went to sleep or not, but good morning to you nonetheless.
There's time to sleep later.
Okay. We will sleep when we are dead. You've been tweeting for a couple days. Hit me with your best shot. Well, how'd you think it went last night?
I think it was great. Anytime you can have the candidates all up there so that the American people can see what their options are, it's a great moment. It's the start of the election season, is the first debate. And so now going into Labor Day, it's off to the races.
One of the things that we led the show with is this a foreign policy issue, and one that's very important for the Gerskovich family, the Wall Street Journal, for freedom of journalists and democracy. Evan Gerskovich is being held by the Russians. Russia had another moment yesterday when it went after one of its own. And I'm wondering, if you were to be president, how would you try to get Evan Gerskovich back?
You have to do it with strength, Dana. I mean, we have seen Putin right now feels like we're so weak. And that's why we talked about at the debate last night. You can't go and say what Vivek said about the fact that you just hand Ukraine to Russia, because that only leaves Russia wanting more. You can't do what Biden did by giving, allowing ransom on Americans' heads, because it just makes them take more people. We have to start being strong. We have to protect our journalists. We have to protect our Americans. And the way you do that is you make sure that you have the backs of Ukraine. We make sure that we defend Taiwan so that China never makes a move. And we let the world know there'll be hell to pay if you take one of our Americans.
We're going to take you back to that moment last night. Ramaswamy's position on the Ukraine war, as stated a week ago, is that you stop the war now and you draw the lines where they are and you negotiate a peace. I'm not even suggesting that's possible. That's just what he has said. But this is the moment the two of you went at it on foreign policy.
You are choosing a murder over a pro-American country.
First of all, Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
You know, I'm not on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon. And want to go and defund Israel? You want to
okay, let me address that. I'm glad you brought that up.
You want to go and give Ukraine Russia?
So the reality
is, make America less safe. You have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
And you know what? The foreign policy experience that you all have.
You were ready for that moment. Did you expect it?
No, I don't expect someone who's running for president to have that much of a lack of foreign policy. The idea that we would defund Israel, the idea that you just allow Putin to take Ukraine, knowing that that's going to lead to a world war because Putin said Poland and the Baltics are next, the idea that you would just let Taiwan get eaten up by China, that's not the foreign policy of a strong America. We have to make sure we keep Americans safe. And this is about making sure that our enemies know that. And what we saw last night was someone who thinks they know foreign policy. You clearly don't know Putin if you think that you're going to give him Ukraine and that he's going to be okay with that and go away. This is a man who just killed Prigozhin last night. This is a man who, when I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador dropped dead. This is a man who is an enemy, a thug, and a dictator. You never take the side of an enemy over a pro-American, freedom-loving country. And that's what Vivek did last night. We need a strong America, and the only way you have a strong America is with a strong president.
One of the things you brought up last night, and one of the issues that brought up for everyone to talk about, is abortion. And, you know, campaigns, they can deal in fantasy. You repeatedly said, and we saw it in the clip that Alexis played, that you have to deal with reality as well. And as when you're governing, you kept saying, we don't have 60 votes in the Senate to do that. Do you think, is that too specific for the public at large to understand? And what about this idea that you can find a consensus on a federal level, even though Dobbs' decision just said leave it to the states?
I think the American people are smart. And I think the American people, a lot of them don't realize that it does take 60 Senate votes. I am unapologetically pro-life. I think it's great that it's no longer in the hands of unelected justices and it's in the hands of the people. That's where we want it. But when it comes to a federal bill, let's be honest with the American people. If you don't have a majority of the House and 60 Senate votes, nothing's going to happen. So we may have 45 pro-life senators. So the idea that a Republican president can ban all abortions is no more right than a Democrat president banning all these state laws. We need to humanize this issue. It is personal for every woman and every man. I am pro-life. I don't judge anyone who's pro-choice any more than I want them to judge me for being pro-life. So let's humanize the situation and stop demonizing.
Conservatives have argued for 50 years, allow the states to decide. The decision that was made in 1973 was wrongly made at the U.S. Supreme Court. And that's exactly what the Supremes just did. They're allowing the states to decide. And in your home state of South Carolina yesterday, the state Supreme Court ruled that abortion at 6 weeks is now legal in South Carolina. Are you okay with that?
South Carolinians decided it. It's in the hands of the people. What they do in South Carolina is going to be different what they do in California. But I would much rather have laws decided by the people, on the ground than by D.C. When it comes to a federal law, I think that we could find consensus. I think all Americans do agree that we shouldn't have late-term abortions. I think they do agree that we should encourage more adoptions and good quality adoptions. I think they do agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them. I think they do agree that contraception should be accessible. And I think they do agree that no state law should say any woman who's had an abortion should have to go to jail or get the death penalty.
I think that's right.
So I think that that's where we need to be. We have to be honest with the American people, but we also have to be realistic. I want to save as many babies as we can and support as many moms as we can.
I just want to get one other thing in here. Cedric Richmond is the head of he was at the DNC press conference yesterday. He used to work at the White House. He said this about whether Biden would debate the Republican nominee in the future. Watch.
President Biden committed to debating in the general?
We have not had a conversation about that at all. I'm sure one day we will, but it's not today, and I don't have any news on that. But what we're going to continue to do is continue to govern, because Vice President Harris and President Biden have a job to do, and they take it serious. So when we have news on that, we'll let you know.
How is that not just a simple yes, of course?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Look, Biden's camp came out and said that they were worried about me winning the primary. He has to debate, just like Trump needs to debate. If you want the American people's support, you got to show up. You can't not get that. You can't just be absent.
And on the Donald Trump point, you said Republicans cannot win with him again, essentially saying you cannot get to a majority in America.
Look,
did you make the demarcation point, at least for yourself anyway, or are you trying to make it for the rest of the Republican Party with the former president?
I was proud to serve in his administration. I agree with most of his policies, but we have to be honest again. He's going to spend more time in a courtroom than he's going to spend on the campaign trail. We cannot allow a President Kamala Harris. We have to win that general election. And in order to do that, you can't do that with someone who literally 3/4 of the American people don't want to see Biden and Trump run again. And the majority of Americans, he is the most disliked politician in all of America. That's reality. And that person can't win a general election, and we can't afford to have Kamala Harris become our president.
The debate continues. We appreciate your time this morning. All
Thanks.
Right?
Go to NikkiHaley.com and join us.
And give our best to your husband. Thank you for serving.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.